Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, the president announced this afternoon that the Republican Party has canceled its traditional nominating convention in Florida next month. The reason: coronavirus. This afternoon, my political team came to me and laid out our plans for the convention in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a place I love. I love that state. But I looked at my team and I said, the timing for this event is not right. Just not right with what happened recently. The flare-up in Florida to have a big convention is not the right time. Well, that news will certainly inconvenience some people. It's without precedent in recent history. But in the end, it's hard to believe that canceling a political convention will affect the outcome ultimately of this year's presidential election. Yet it is very likely that the coronavirus lockdowns themselves will affect the outcome. And here's why. The most basic question: political polling never changes. Is your country on the right track, or the wrong track in a re-election campaign especially? That is always the central question. Every political consultant in America knows that there is no poll the Biden campaign pays closer attention to than the daily right track, wrong track numbers, especially now presidential election, in fact, believe it or not, is almost here. In some places, early voting begins in just over a month. The results of that voting will define the country's future. If Democrats take both the Senate and the White House, and they could, you will not recognize America. A year from now. Think about how much things have changed just over the past 6 months. Now, imagine what would have happened if there had been no meaningful opposition to the mob. If Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had been able to impose her plans without any restraint. That's exactly what they intend to do if they win. They're not hiding it. If Mitch McConnell tries to do what he did to President Obama, then we should get rid of the filibuster. Raise your hand if covered. If your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. That is why we will implement legislation based on the principles of the Green New Deal. Are you proposing taking away their guns, and how would this work? I am. If it's a weapon that was designed to kill people on a battlefield. Hell, yes. We're going to take your A-15, your AK-47. It's funny because when people ask me what does a world where we defend the police work, defending police, looks like, I tell them it looks like a suburb. We'll see what you will about the people you just saw. They are not moderates. This is not the Democratic Party. You remember dopey liberals with flaccid ideas that you probably had contempt for. But in the end, could live with no. These are radicals. They despise the country. They seek to govern. They plan to remake it completely. These people want power with an intensity that you as a normal, well-adjusted person cannot even begin to understand. They will do anything for control. So the question is, what are they doing to win? Well, they're working the right track, wrong track numbers. Democrats understand that the unhappier Americans become, the more likely they are to win. Unhappy people want change. It is not complicated. So every ominous headline about the state of the country makes it more likely that Donald Trump will lose his job. The more that people suffer, the greater Joe Biden's advantage. Democrats have a strong incentive, therefore, to inflict as much pain as they can. And that's what they're doing on March 1st. New York State confirmed its first case of the coronavirus at the time. You may not remember the media were still attacking the president for taking the Hong coronavirus too seriously. They said his travel ban on China was hysterical and xenophobic. 2 days later, citing the pandemic, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine banned spectators from a sporting event, and the Washington Post scoffed at him. The paper called Darwin's restrictions, quote, radical. On that day, March 3, more than 40% of Americans thought the country was headed in the right direction. And for the Biden campaign, that number was way too high. Then within a week, higher education began to shut down, and life really started to change for many people. Hundreds of thousands of idle college-aged kids returned home. Stores began to empty hand sanitizers. Cleaning supplies disappeared. On March 12, the National Hockey League canceled that season. Major League Baseball followed suit. They ended spring training. Suddenly, there were no sports movie theaters close to bowling alleys. And yet still 40% of Americans continued to believe that their country was headed in the right direction. And that was bad news for the Joe Biden campaign.